In 1847, during what was expected to be a routine renovation of an abandoned church in the quiet settlement of Millfield, Ohio, workers stumbled upon a discovery that would unsettle the entire community and eventually become the subject of hushed legends whispered across several states. As carpenters stripped away sections of the old sanctuary, one man noticed peculiar inconsistencies in the ornate pulpit, a structure so finely carved with intricate religious motifs that most assumed it was a sacred centerpiece rather than a place concealing secrets. Beneath this pulpit, after much probing, they discovered an elaborate concealed mechanism, the design of which was so clever that it had successfully evaded detection for decades, perhaps even longer. With cautious effort, the workers managed to trigger the mechanism, revealing a hidden compartment sealed away from human eyes for generations. Inside lay an object whose presence seemed to defy the sanctity of the church, a weathered leather-bound journal, its cover cracked with age, yet the interior astonishingly preserved, as though time itself had been instructed to safeguard its contents. When the workers carefully opened the fragile pages, their hands trembling with a mixture of dread and awe, they were confronted with an unsettling record unlike anything they could have expected. Written in precise, unwavering handwriting, page after page listed names, over 8,000 in total. Each entry contained not just the name of the deceased, but also meticulous notes documenting the date of death, the exact location, the supposed cause, and most chilling of all, detailed property values and asset calculations attached to the individual. The implication was impossible to ignore. Someone had been systematically cataloging human lives not merely in terms of their passing, but in terms of the wealth, land, and possessions that could be reaped from their demise. This was not simply a death ledger, it was an account book for expel. The mid-19th century brought forth discoveries that continue to unsettle those who dare to peer into the darker recesses of American history. The story of the Westbrook family and the Millfield mystery is one such tale, and it is not for the faint of heart. If you enjoy uncovering the most disturbing truths that mainstream historians either overlook or deliberately suppress, then this story is for you. The narrative begins not with the journal itself, but with the cultural and religious climate that made such a plot conceivable. The early 1800s were marked by a fervor that swept across the United States, a religious revolution known as the Second Great Awakening. This movement, fueled by revival meetings and charismatic preaching, transformed American society in profound ways. In frontier regions, where established churches were scarce and authority structures weak, itinerant ministers, prophets, and self-appointed visionaries found fertile ground. These gatherings could number in the thousands, as men and women traveled for days to attend camp meetings in open fields. The air was thick with cries of salvation, visions of heavenly judgment, fainting bodies overcome by spiritual force, and tongues spoken in ecstatic frenzy. Ohio, admitted to the Union in 1803, quickly became a gateway to the western frontier. The state's population exploded from 45,000 in 1800 to over 500,000 by 1820. Land was plentiful, oversight minimal, and ambition unchecked. This environment allowed not only sincere religious seekers to flourish, but also opportunists, manipulators, and families like the Westbrooks who saw in this chaos the opportunity to transform belief into a machinery of exploitation. It was within this atmosphere of revival and expansion that the seeds of one of America's most disturbing conspiracies were planted. When Joseph Harkins, the master carpenter overseeing the renovation of the abandoned Millfield Church in 1847, first opened the hidden journal. Among the men drawn to this opportunity was Isaiah Westbrook, a failed merchant from Hartford, Connecticut, who arrived in Chillicothe, Ohio, in the spring of 1803. Unlike many settlers who came with dreams of farming or trading, Isaiah arrived with something he claimed was far more valuable, a vision. Standing over 6 feet tall with piercing blue eyes and a commanding presence enhanced by a meticulously groomed full beard, Isaiah quickly established himself as a lay preacher. He initially worked within established Methodist circuits, but gradually formed his own independent congregation. He possessed a voice contemporaries described as thunder wrapped in velvet, powerful enough to reach the back of any gathering yet intimate enough to make each listener feel personally addressed. "God has led me to this place," he declared to the small group who gathered to hear him speak in the town square that first summer, his voice carrying across the humid Ohio air. "He has shown me that this land, this Ohio country, is to be a new Jerusalem for his chosen people. The old churches of the East have grown corrupt and complacent. Here, where the forests still echo with the voice of creation, we shall build a pure faith." Isaiah's charisma was undeniable. Those who encountered him frequently described an unusual intensity in his gaze, a certainty in his words that seemed to transcend ordinary faith. Hannah Weathers, whose journal provides one of the few first-hand accounts of Isaiah's early preaching, wrote, "When Reverend Westbrook speaks of divine visions, even the most skeptical find themselves nodding in agreement. There is something in his eyes that makes disbelief seem impossible, as though he can see straight through to your soul and address the doubts you've never spoken aloud." Within months, his roadside sermons were drawing crowds from miles around. By winter, a small but devoted congregation had formed around him, calling themselves the faithful of the New Promise.
Aye,